Wife cheated on me with my best friend for 2 years, and this is how I exposed their twisted scheme. They say ignorance is bliss. I used to believe in that saying deeply, until one night that saying became my reality and my entire world fell apart. Not with a big bang, but with a whisper from a DNA test kit. The child I loved, the child I cherished, wasn't mine. And the man who helped create that lie was the one whom I least suspected, which shattered me to my very core. My name is Mark, 34M. My wife, Sarah, 29F, and I have known each other for over 5 years and have been married for just over a year. Together we had a son just more than half a year ago. I had everything I ever wanted: a great job, a comfortable home with a loving wife, and a charming 6-month-old son, Leo. I truly believed I had it all, and that my life would simply continue to be a dream. However, more than 2 months ago, cracks began to appear in my marriage. They were small cracks, but I couldn't ignore them anymore. Sarah started behaving strangely. She started spending more time glued to her phone, often smiling or giggling softly while reading messages. When I asked what was so amusing, she'd brush it off, saying she was just texting friends or family. But I knew better. I'd seen that look many times before, you know. She had that specific gaze that people reserve for a new lover, the kind where you can't hide that giddy happiness no matter how hard you try to act normal. Then she began acting like she was hiding something significant. She'd get incredibly irritable whenever I asked questions, and frequently disappeared from home claiming she was hanging out with girlfriends. Soon after, Sarah would vanish for entire evenings, her phone on silent, my messages ignored. I kept trying to convince myself I was overthinking things, but every night, as I lay awake beside her sleeping form, doubts would creep in and strangle me, making things extremely hard to breathe. I'd look at Leo, breathing softly in his crib beside me, then at Sarah. The most haunting question wasn't about her faithfulness, it was about our 6-month-old son. Was he truly mine? Night after night, that fear gnawed at me, piece by piece. I couldn't live with that suspicion anymore. It kept gnawing at my soul like a rat, and that rat was driving me mad. So I did something I never thought I'd do, something I knew I shouldn't. If anyone found out, it would be a monumental judgment. But I had to. I secretly ordered a DNA test kit to the house. I took a sample of Leo's hair, his tiny, soft strand, and sent it off with mine. My heart pounded in my chest. I didn't even know what result I wanted. Part of me was desperate for the truth, but another part was terrified of it. The day the results envelope arrived, my hands trembled. It felt like my entire world was hanging by a thread. But I opened it anyway, and the words printed clearly and coldly on that white sheet of paper told me the worst. Leo was not my biological son. The ground beneath me gave way, vanishing completely. I stood there in my own home, a place I once thought was my sanctuary, feeling like a stranger. Everything started to be blurry and my ears rang. My more than year-long marriage, the 5-year relationship filled with what I believed was bliss, and everything I thought was mine, it was all a lie. It turned out the happiness I believed in was hollow, completely empty. I tried to swallow, my throat bone dry, trying to maintain my composure. I tried so hard, believe me, but inside a fierce battle raged. My heart was shattering into a million pieces. I wanted to destroy every single thing in that fake home. I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs, to curse the whole world, but I held back. I decided I had to put on a normal mask for Sarah. Keeping this secret was far heavier than I ever imagined. Each day felt like torture. For almost a week after I got the DNA results, I felt like a ghost. I kept the results in my wallet, constantly feeling that paper burning a hole in my pocket. Every time I looked at Sarah and Leo, my heart felt like it was burning with a raging fire. I knew the truth, but I couldn't say it. I was always afraid I would break down, that I'd burst at any moment. I didn't know what to do. This feeling, it was heavier than anything I had ever experienced. But I couldn't stay silent forever. I needed an answer from her own lips, so I started. I tested her reaction. I mentioned feeling a bit tired lately, and that I'd read about people getting general health checkups and genetic tests to understand underlying conditions. So I suggested we all get one for peace of mind. I tried to sound as natural as possible, trying not to reveal any hint of abnormality. But it seemed it wouldn't be that easy. Could you guess what is Sarah's reaction? Yes, of course, it was an immediate and flat-out refusal. She started interrogating me, asking why I was suddenly bringing up such nonsense as if I'd gone mad. Her voice, initially soft, steadily rose. "Don't you trust me? I've loved you for 5 years, sacrificed for you, for this family. Now you're doubting me? You're destroying our trust," she said, her voice trembling, eyes welling up. Then, at the peak, she looked me directly in the eye, tears streaming down her face, but her gaze was as cold as ice. "I think you're too stressed, Mark. You must be working too much, leading to paranoia. Maybe you should see a therapist." Did you hear that? She told me I was crazy. I, the one who had just learned that I was cruelly betrayed, was now being called insane by the betrayer herself. That feeling, it hurt even more than the betrayal itself. It was a deeply insult to my pride. Sarah's gaslighting left me reeling. I was on the verge of exploding, ready to make her pay right then and there. But then, I looked at Leo sleeping in his crib, at his innocent face, and I knew I couldn't break down. I had to find the truth, no matter what it was. So I began to investigate secretly, with extreme caution. I paid attention to every gesture Sarah made, every phone call, every message. I started following her constantly. I even installed a small tracking app on Sarah's phone. I knew it was wrong, but I had no other choice. I needed proof. I needed to know what she was hiding from me. And then the fateful day arrived. One Friday afternoon, Sarah said she was going shopping with a friend. I decided to follow her. I parked a distance away, watching. I saw her enter a small cafe, tucked away in an alley. My heart pounded. Someone was waiting for her inside. I pressed my face against the glass, trying to get a clear view. And then I saw them. Sarah was sitting there, laughing and talking, holding hands with David. I couldn't believe my eyes. It's David, my cousin, and my best friend. David had been with me through thick and thin since childhood, from school days to work, through all of life's storms. He was like a brother to me. I trusted him more than I trusted myself. He often came to our house. Sarah was close to him too. Everything was normal, fine. But now, seeing that bastard holding hands with the woman who betrayed me, it felt like a sledgehammer had just struck my head. My whole world spun. It wasn't some stranger, it was David. There he was, sitting opposite my wife, embracing and kissing her right before my eyes. I don't know what else to say. My blood was boiling. I stood there in the darkness of the alley, watching those two calmly enjoying their affair as if nothing wrong had happened. My heart wasn't just broken anymore. It wasn't just an internal struggle. It was an explosion. I felt my chest about to burst. A shockwave of anger surged through me, making me reel. Extreme pain, uncontrollable rage, and a burning desire for them to pay. This wasn't just a betrayal anymore. This was a crime, a perfectly orchestrated scheme, and I, this fool, was the primary victim. In that moment, I knew I couldn't stay silent for another second. My heart pounded and blood rushed to my head. But once again, I didn't storm in immediately. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew I needed to keep a clear head. I decided to confront David first. He was my cousin, my best friend, right? I had to give him a chance to confess. I called David with my voice icy. "David, I need to talk to you, right now, at our usual spot, the bar on the corner." At our regular bar, where we'd shared countless secrets and stories, I saw David already seated before I arrived, his face pale. He probably knew something was up. I didn't beat around the bush and went straight to it. "Leo isn't my son, David, and I saw you with Sarah." Initially, he denied everything, claiming he and Sarah were just friends, asking if I was crazy for accusing him like that. Another person asking if I was crazy. David's voice trembled, his eyes darting around. That look on his face, it disgusted me even more. He wanted to know if I was crazy. I slammed the DNA test results onto the table. "Don't lie to me anymore, David. I have undeniable proof right here. Now, either you tell me everything from beginning to end, or you're about to find out just how crazy I can get, David." David looked from the test results to my enraged face, his own drained of all color. He knew he couldn't deny it anymore. He slumped, letting out a long, drawn-out sigh. "Mark, I'm sorry." Hearing him mumble those cheap, meaningless apologies, I just wanted to punch him. "I don't need your worthless apologies, my dear friend," I snarled. "What I want is the truth. Leo is your son, isn't he? How long has this hellish affair been going on?" Then David started to confess. Every word, every syllable, they cut me like knives. They had been secretly involved for a long time, even before Sarah and I got married. And the most shocking part, the one I never could have imagined, was that my mother-in-law, Elizabeth, knew everything. David's voice was barely a whisper, as if he was about to cry. "Sarah's mother, she was the first to know. Sarah got pregnant with me, but she didn't want her daughter to marry someone like me, or worse, become a single mother. You know, I don't have a stable job or any money, so—"
What? My respectable mother-in-law? She knew about it from the very beginning? She encouraged Sarah to marry me. She wanted to turn me into a prop so the baby would have a legitimate father, so her daughter could have a comfortable life with a decent husband. Elizabeth said you had a good job, stable finances, and loved Sarah dearly, David recounted Elizabeth's words. Just let Mark be the baby's father. He'll take good care of both Sarah and the child. When I heard that, I didn't just feel nauseous, a chill ran down my spine. This was a scheme, a carefully, coldly orchestrated plan by the very people I trusted most. Sarah, David, and even my mother-in-law Elizabeth, they were an alliance, calculatingly exploiting and deceiving me for almost 2 years. David then pulled out his phone, scrolled through it, and showed it to me. It was full of messages between him and Elizabeth, cold, calculated texts about the plan, about Sarah and the baby's future, about Mark must never know. They hit me like a bucket of ice water, confirming everything. It was a perfect play, and I was their puppet. My rage had reached a destructive point. They had made a fool of me. Now, I wanted to show them hell. After that night confronting David, I was no longer the Mark I used to be. The feeling of being deceived, of being made a fool of for so many years, burned within me like a fire. I no longer wanted to run. No, I wanted to fight. I wanted to expose and explode everything. But I knew I couldn't do it alone. I needed a professional, someone sharp enough to handle such a scheme. So I sought out lawyer Elena. I had heard of her for a long time as a tough lawyer who feared no one. I told Elena everything, from Sarah's change in behavior, to Leo not being my son, to the shock of David being the biological father, and even the disgusting conspiracy involving my mother-in-law, Elizabeth. Elena listened intently, her face cold and resolute. She told me this was more than just a typical divorce case. It was a large-scale fraud, and we needed enough evidence to make them pay. Elena helped me devise a detailed, step-by-step plan. She told me I needed to gather more evidence, as much evidence as possible. The first step was recording. Elena provided me with a miniature recording device. I began recording every conversation with Sarah, David, and even my mother-in-law. When talking to Sarah, I tried to steer the conversation toward topics about children and the future, hoping she would slip up. I even called David, pretending to have forgiven him. But in reality, it was to get him to reveal more about Elizabeth's scheme. Listening back to their deceitful voices made my heart clench. Secondly, Elena suspected financial manipulation. Sarah and her mother might have been exploiting me financially all this time. I started digging through bank statements, receipts, and joint documents. Just as Elena predicted, there were unusual expenses and money transfers I knew nothing about. There were even debts in my name that I had never incurred. Clearly, Sarah had been siphoning off my money bit by bit without me knowing. And here's the detail that completely shocked me. While rummaging through Sarah's old boxes, I stumbled upon a small one containing her old diary. My hands trembled as I opened it. Reading the entries almost made me vomit. There were passages about David, about her love for him, dating back to long before Sarah and I even started dating. This meant their affair had been going on for a very long time. My entire relationship and marriage with Sarah from A to Z was a premeditated play. I wasn't a lover, I was the chosen Mark. This outrageous truth was beyond my endurance. Throughout this whole ordeal, the only person I could confide in was my sister, Jane. She was the only one I trusted implicitly. I poured out everything to Jane over the phone, my voice catching with every word. She just listened in silence, then said, "Mark, you're not alone. I believe you. We'll get to the bottom of this. You have to be strong for Leo and for yourself." Jane's words were like a sedative. She was my only lifeline in this stormy sea. I knew I wasn't alone anymore. Judgment Day was approaching. The day of reckoning finally arrived. I had planned everything. Not in a courtroom, but right at my and Sarah's second wedding anniversary party. I was the one who personally organized this gathering, inviting all our friends, relatives from both sides, my family, Sarah's family, and of course, David. How could I possibly leave out my beloved cousin? I wanted to expose everything right in front of the most important people. I wanted them to taste what it felt like to be exposed. With everyone gathered, I took the microphone. My hand trembled slightly, but I tried my best to remain calm. I began my speech, thanking everyone for coming, and thanking Sarah for 2 happy years. My voice must have sounded incredibly gentle, like a husband deeply in love. Sarah sat beside me, beaming, completely unaware she was already caught in the trap I had set. David stood in a corner, occasionally glancing at Sarah, pretending to be oblivious. Then came the moment. I took a deep breath. Today, I have a special gift I want to give to Sarah, and to everyone here. As I said, my voice suddenly turned cold, causing a ripple of murmurs through the room. I pulled out an envelope. First, this is a gift for Sarah. I tossed the envelope containing the DNA test results directly onto the table in front of her. And this is the truth about our son, Leo. Sarah's face instantly went pale. She looked at me as if I were the devil himself. What the hell are you talking about, Mark?" Her voice trembled. But I didn't give her a chance to speak. I brought the microphone close to the Bluetooth speaker, which was already connected to my phone. And now, here's an audio gift. A gift from a dear friend and from a mother. I pressed the play button. David's voice rang out, clear as a bell. "I know your mom doesn't want her daughter to suffer, Sarah, so I gave you up. She wants Mark to be the stand-in father for the kid, so you and our kid would have a solid foundation." Elizabeth, my mother-in-law's voice, interjected, full of calculation. "Don't worry, Sarah. Mark trusts you. He'll never find out. Just let him be the baby's father. He'll take good care of both you and the child." Then came Sarah's voice, utterly sickening. "He's stupid, Mom. He loves me so much he'd never suspect. He's so easy to fool." The entire room suddenly fell silent, only the echoing recording filling the air. People started whispering, murmuring. I could see the horror in their eyes. Sarah shot up, her face drained of all color. "What is this, Mark? Are you insane? What game are you playing?" she shrieked, trying to snatch my phone. David lunged forward, his face pale and flabby, but Jane, my sister, was quick enough to stop him. "Insane?" I scoffed, the bitterest laugh of my life. "Yes, I am insane. After everything you and my best friend and your mother have done, you've all been deceiving me all this time. It'd be strange if I wasn't insane." I pulled out another stack of documents. "This is proof of the money drained from our joint accounts, the debts in my name that I never knew about. You didn't just deceive me about our child, you defrauded me financially." My mother-in-law, who had been pale until then, now turned bright red. She sputtered, "Mark, you're ruining everything. You'll regret this." She tried to lunge at me, but a few relatives held her back. A chaotic scene erupted. Some of Sarah's relatives initially tried to defend her, but upon hearing the clear recordings and seeing the financial evidence, their expressions shifted from confusion to outrage. I heard someone exclaim, "Unbelievable! How shameless!" Yes, they were indeed the most shameless people I had ever met. And now, the whole world was witnessing their true faces. The feeling I had at that moment wasn't one of joy. It was purely release. It freed me from the burden of their lies and marked the beginning of a new battle. Like a horror movie, Sarah and David's faces were drained of color as they tried to flee. Sarah shrieked, "You're crazy! You'll regret this!" like a madwoman. David, furtive, tried to slip away, but I had a few close friends block his path. And my mother-in-law? She clutched her chest, wailed, and pretended to faint. I clearly saw her dart a blaming look at David, as if trying to dump all the fault on him. Like mother, like daughter, utterly deceitful. The news spread faster than wildfire. Within hours, everyone knew. Sarah's, David's, and even my mother-in-law Elizabeth's reputations were completely ruined. They became a laughingstock, a glaring example of betrayal and deceit. The very next day, I, along with my lawyer, Elena, filed for divorce. Elena is a woman of steel, I must say. She had everything ready. She not only helped me with the divorce, but also filed a lawsuit against Sarah and David for fraud, financial deception, and the emotional distress they had caused me over the past 2 years. Elena had all the evidence in hand, the DNA results, the clear recordings, and all the financial documents I had collected. She assured me I had a strong case. The 1,000-pound weight had been lifted. I watched them now face the consequences, endure social contempt, and confront the law. The feeling of justice being served was sweeter than anything I had ever imagined. But this drama wasn't over yet. Sarah and David, those two, still had tricks up their sleeves. They knew if I won the lawsuit, they would be left with nothing, their reputations ruined. So they pulled their last stunt, fighting for custody of little Leo. Sarah and David filed a petition with the court demanding custody of Leo. They argued that I wasn't his biological father, that I had no rights to the child. They even slandered me, claiming I was psychologically unstable and unfit to be a father. How ridiculous! I, who had raised the child since birth, who had loved him with all my heart, was now being labeled unfit by the very two people who had lied to me? At that point, everything became incredibly tense again. My heart tightened. I could endure all the lies, all the betrayals, all the financial losses. But Leo? He was my entire world. I couldn't let them take him from me. I would fight to the very end. Lawyer Elena worked tirelessly. She presented all our evidence, the deceitful conspiracy, the manipulative behavior, and the moral bankruptcy of Sarah and David. Elena proved to the court that Sarah and David were untrustworthy individuals, thus unfit to be parents.
I stood before the court looking directly at the judge. I didn't need to speak flowery words or profound philosophies. I simply spoke the truth from my heart. Your Honor and everyone present, yes, the DNA test results state that Leo does not share my blood. But from the moment that child was born, from the second I held him in my arms, I loved him with my entire being. I looked towards Leo, who was being held by my sister Jane in the audience, gazing at me innocently. I stayed up all night caring for him when he had a fever. I taught him his first words. I was overjoyed when he took his first steps. He is my son in every sense of the word. No DNA test can erase the bond, the love I have for him. He is my son. He thinks I am his father, and that to me is all that matters. And finally, justice was on my side. The court ruled I, Mark, would be the sole guardian and caregiver of Leo. Sarah and David were stripped of all their legal parental rights to the child due to their deceitful and unfit conduct. Upon hearing the verdict, I nearly collapsed, not from sadness, but from overwhelming relief. I had won. I had kept my son. Tears streamed down my face, but they were tears of liberation, of love, and of a bittersweet victory. This tragedy had taken so much from me, but it also gave me the most precious thing, Leo, and the unconditional love I have for my son.
The battle ended, and Leo and I began a new life. Our lives are now incredibly peaceful, a tranquility I never knew during those years of deceit. I dedicate all my time to Leo. In the mornings, I make his milk, watching him grin. In the evenings, I read him stories, then watch him sleep soundly in my arms. Every moment with Leo, I feel healed. He's not just my son, he's my everything. My sister, Jane, has always been there. She never left. She helps me care for Leo, listening whenever I need to share. She's my strongest pillar of support, the person I know will never betray me. With Jane, I feel much stronger. As for those 3 scoundrels, I don't want to dwell on them, but they certainly got their just desserts. Sarah lost everything.
Her reputation was shattered, she was disowned by her family, and no one wanted to see her. She lives in isolation, loss, and undoubtedly regret, though I don't care if she truly regrets it. David was fired from his company, lost all his friends, and became a lonely outcast, scorned by society. And Elizabeth, the one who orchestrated it all, also faced legal consequences for her fraudulent actions. Everything they caused ultimately came back to bite them. Karma is real, my friends. Life is full of unexpected turns. Sometimes the biggest betrayals reveal the purest loves. I lost a wife and a best friend, but I gained something 1,000 times more precious, the undeniable truth about my son Leo and the unbreakable bond between us. And that, no DNA test, no lie, can ever take away. If you're in a relationship where your gut tells you something is wrong, trust it. Don't be afraid to seek the truth. Don't let yourself be manipulated or exploited, because sometimes a painful truth is the first step to finding true happiness and self-respect. Thank you for listening to today's story from the Guilty Notes channel. If this story resonated with you, please like, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional, real-life stories and valuable lessons. See you in the next video.